Hello, and welcome to the Right Perspective Podcast, Interview Edition. I'm Benjamin Davis, and I'm joined today by Rogue Prodigal. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Good morning. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Or I guess it's afternoon.
It is now. All right. So, before we get into the topic, which you'll tell me what that is, who are you? Who are people listening to?
Well, my name is Jeremy Martin. I will preface all this by I am no theologian. I don't live any of this out perfectly. These are my opinions and what I feel is biblically sound, in my opinion. But I was raised Methodist. I was an acolyte, I was in the choir. My parents would probably say I was like the perfect little saint child. And then I have one of the crazy testimonies, sex, drugs, rock and roll for probably a couple decades and just trying to. And then I got back, and then the lockdowns, they shut down churches and the gyms, and it took me a while to get back in when those began to reopen. And just on this journey of what we would call progressive sanctification, trying to just be better every day.
Praise God. Glad you
Yeah,
glad you came back. That's wonderful.
and me too.
It's good in here.
Yeah.
All right. So, in this podcast, we kind of talk about reforming the West, bring it back to its Christian roots, bringing it back to Christendom. So, what's a major problem you see in the West?
I would say, and it's been going on for decades now, the watered down gospel, which is interesting. Anyone listening to this, I'd encourage you to go back and listen to the previous releases that they've done. They covered less leftism, immigration, feminism, everything, child sacrifice, abortion, which I think all those kind of all merge back and connect to a watered down gospel and the negative impact it's having on the West.
Okay, so let's define terms a little bit. What are you talking about when you say a watered down gospel?
Well, I think there's a lot of it that I mean, we're seeing a lot of the things with the churches, and even I think it was the Anglican Church yesterday that named somebody. We're seeing a lot of the LGBT. So I mean, that's like kind of the extreme of it. But then I guess some of the more subtle is some of the churches that, and I'll admit, even when I was growing up, the churches primarily seemed to be predominantly run by the women. It was the wives and the mothers and all those. I saw a lot more action and attentiveness by then and involvement. So I think that was a part of a problem. Obviously, that was several decades ago, but now it's even, and I believe some of them have good intent. I believe some of them have nefarious intent, but it's more, it's gotten where empathy is overly emphasized, which I believe empathy can become enabling. And, like, well, Jesus taught us to be kind. Well, sure, he did, but he also confronted the Sadducees and the Pharisees and the scribes and all them, calling them brood of vipers, whitewashed tombs. So I think this whole dainty, let's be kind and just loving, and also just making about me, like get saved and you're just going to be good from then on out. And it's about you and making you better. And again, progressive sanctification, it is, there's fine lines with a lot of this, but I just feel like it's been diluted and watered down to make it more comfortable for everybody that, you go into church and you accept Jesus. Well, it's okay if you're still having sex outside of marriage, which again, my testimony, I've done these things. I'm not judging abortions. I would imagine some of the people that'll listen to this, maybe some of the women have had abortions, maybe some of the men have paid for them, those going out drinking all the time. So this isn't about condemnation, but it is about confrontation. And that's what Jesus would do.
I like that. So, kind of like how when feminism gets into the government, you get socialist stuff, and when it gets into the churches, you get the non judgmental gospel.
Right.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Why is that a problem? What effect is that having on the West and America?
Well, like I said, I think residually it's causing a lot of these other things, the dilution and kind of the erosion of our culture. If we look back when it was more dominant in the culture, we didn't have these waves of crime and the feminism and things like that. I feel like, again, you know, and there's a lot of even the churches, even some of these may even have the best intent, but the kind of the seeker friendly. And I'll also say I believe there's a place for some of the seeker friendly churches, but they dance around the hard topics. So I think a lot of the people that don't pay attention, there's a lot of people, we're very blessed in this nation and in the West. We got our climate controlled homes and we go hop in our new climate controlled cars to go to our climate controlled office and stopping on the way to get, their $7 Frappuccino or whatever and have DoorDash deliver their food. We're very comfortable. We're very blessed. And I think a lot of normal people just as this erosion with our culture, they just aren't paying attention. So, they go and they hear the 20-minute message on the weekend with the glorified music that's like a rock concert. And again, there's places for that, but I think a lot of the people avoid the hard topics, and then that leads to that happening even in their daily lives. And I mean, we've been called to be salt and light, which those two things, when they come in contact with the other, change them dramatically, even small amounts. And so I think that people kind of go and I have friends that do it. I've done this. They'll go in service, and those that raise their hands, they'll raise their hands, hallelujah, be taking notes. But then they leave church and that's it. They don't do anymore. If they have friends or family doing things that are, not biblical or flat out against the gospel, they want to be kind and not embarrass them or offend them, and they just kind of don't mention anything or step up. And I think it's definitely a problem with men. I think as men, women, there's a lot of equality in the way God created us, but we have specific roles that there's a clear delineation there. And so I think a lot of what will help reverse these trends of the watered down gospel is men stepping up to who we were designed to be. I hope that answered
Absolutely.
the question. I know I kind of went on a rant.
Yeah, I'll ask another clarifying question. Yeah, so many problems can be traced back to the apathy of men. Crazy. So when you say gospel, what I'm hearing is more just kind of the doctrine of the church. When I think gospel, I'm thinking how you get saved. Maybe that's a very uh, small view of the gospel. What are you talking about the bigger doctrinal, don't sleep with people outside of marriage, don't all these moral things,
Well,
God's
so
commands.
all that would be the fruit when we've heard the gospel and you go through that, that would be the fruit. So I did kind of expound beyond that. I understand your question now better. So like the diluted version is kind of more about, it's emphasizing comfort and happiness and grace, and it kind of downplays and omits the challenges with that, when truly it should be about repentance and obedience, sacrifice, following biblical scriptural authority. And so, yeah, it's, believing that Christ came to earth as man, died for our sins. He was nailed to the cross, was dead 3 days, arose from the dead. And he did all that because of our sin. When you go all the way back to Genesis 2, even just this morning in our Bible study, I got a buddy that's going through some things right now, and beating himself up for walking away. And I'm like, we've all done it. It's all the way back in the beginning of Genesis. It's the human cycle. So I hope that better answered.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. So when you water down the harshness of the sin, you don't fix things in your lives. You don't get up and tell your friend, your brother, sister, whatever, that they're in sin doing these things. Okay. That has a building effect across culture as
Sure.
well. Okay.
100%.
Okay. So we like to discuss kind of the macro fixes and the micro fixes. What can we do on a societal, governmental level to work on this?
So the entire, separation of church and state, I think it's been dissected, diluted, deconstructed, all that. I think the government should be involved in that. A lot of times people say, that church shouldn't be involved in politics. But the thing is, like, people want to talk about abortion. Like, that's not a church issue. That's a political issue. No, it actually is a gospel issue. It's a gospel issue that's been turned political. And we could go down the list of things that are like that. So I do believe our government should be more involved in that. Also, with the persecution of Christians and kind of the expansion of some of these other things like Sharia law and everything right here in our country, I do feel the government should take some steps. We have freedom of religion, so I'm not saying we have to shut them down. They have constitutional rights as we do, but I just see a distortion there, and it's not equal in the way those things are addressed, I feel like. So also, I mean, if we promote, some undiluted preaching in the churches, maybe confront, and I don't know how to do this. I haven't perfected it by any means or know how, but we should probably be confronting some of these churches that are, doing these things in completely unbiblical fashion. I mean, even going back to the men, and women could even be involved in this as well, but stepping up and fostering, community education and getting more with our neighbors. And also, a lot of us do it. I mean, we should really be Christians 24/7. And I struggle with this tremendously, but that alone would have such a huge impact on our culture, with our neighbors or people we come in contact with, or even the barista at the coffee shop. We need to be these lights and be more bold. And it's one thing I'm seeing since the Charlie Kirk incident. I seem to be seeing a lot more boldness. I just hope it's sustainable. We kind of live in this culture that's, a lot of fads and things. So I'm hopeful, but yet to see that hopefully 6 months from now, we're still seeing this, especially with the youth. I think supporting missions and some more cross cultural exchange. I am not good at this either, but confronting even, maybe even confronting is not the right word because they tend to close up. But, if you have disagreements with, say, the Mormons or Catholics or anything for that matter, but it's the way we go about it. It needs to be honest and genuine and respectful discussion. I heard it put best just a few weeks ago. There was a Christian and a Mormon talking, and the guy put it, he goes, "Hey, I'm never offended if you come at me with your Mormon ideology because I know that you genuinely believe that and you're trying to save my soul while I'm also trying to save your soul." So I think we need to, in most situations, not be offended in that nature. But I mean, truth wins all the time. We know that. Love wins, truth wins. So we just need to do our part in a more respectful way. And then, just kind of washing away the desire to be popular. And I mean, Jesus said it himself. I've come and I'll be divisive. He talks about even within the household there's going to be division between brothers and sisters and parents. And it's unfortunate, but it's a reality of the depravity of humanity, that when we're going to speak truth and we're going to confront people with the truth, it's going to cause divisiveness. And that's just an unfortunate reality.
Yeah, boldness seems to be the word of our day right now.
Yeah.
I mean, keep
Something I'm
coming back
working
to,
on.
yeah, same. Yep. All right. So, what kind of you mentioned kind of some general things the government could do. What's some if you were emperor for a day, what is three things you would do?
Breathe it. Wow. This one caught me by surprise. I mean, there's some things that have been done on a state level that obviously cause a ton of controversy, but me being a Christian, wholeheartedly agree with. I think putting the 10 Commandments back in classes, we just did that here in Texas. It's now required to be there. The same people that'll advocate for a trans flag are the ones that be screaming about it. And it's like, well, one is, I don't see how anyone can even disagree with the 10 Commandments. I mean, it's pretty standard across all cultures, even people that have never been Christian, like, yeah, I shouldn't kill. Yeah, I don't want to lie. Yeah, I don't want to steal. So I would probably put the 10 Commandments back in classrooms. Two others. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull this one off, man. Put on
To
the
be
spot.
fair, a couple of those Ten Commandments do go against the Muslim religion, as I understand it.
Fair point. Fair point. Yeah. As far as if I was emperor, man, I'm not sure I can come up with two more on the spot.
It's okay. I didn't tell you that one was coming.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's shift to the more. What can I do? What can you do? How do we fix this on an individual level?
Well, I think a lot of us need to just fully grasp the true gospel. I think a lot of us don't, and a lot of it is no fault of our own. Like I said, I feel that this watered down gospel has been going on for decades. So it's some of it's just what we know. I think if we all personally just deepen our personal Bible study, make sure in the word every day, I mean, that alone will just produce more fruit, shift your mind. And, it's hard to be out sinning if you're in the word. It's hard to do that simultaneously. I think doing that, I would say learning to hear God, and being more proactive. A lot of the watered down gospel will tell you, hey, just believe and be saved. And there's a point of the gospel that once that's done, we need to pursue transformation. I mean, you want to serve others. Forgiveness is a huge one. I think I've heard it once said, I don't remember who said it, but unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So I think forgiveness is very important in that aspect. And then ethical living, Sometimes there's that other saying, sometimes you're the only Bible someone may see. And so if we are being bold, as has been the word of the day, people around you are going to know, and they're going to see your behavior. And we're going to fall short. I had to confess in this morning's men's Bible study just about an outburst of anger I had, and some of my neighbors were out and they know I'm a Christian. And so that wasn't obviously demonstrating the way Jesus would have responded in that situation. So we're going to fall short, but we got to have those conversations with people. And I know a lot of people put us on pedestals as Christians, but yeah, living out the full gospel and then sharing authentically with people, again, boldness. And then I think an important one, especially for men, that's difficult in our society, is seek accountability. I think we need to have those men in our life. You need at least two or three of those guys. I've heard it. Kyle Thompson has a Christian men's podcast, and he puts it this way. He said, almost all of us have that 6 p.m. guy we can call and like, hey, you want to grab a beer? Or hey, can you help me load my truck? But how many of us have that 3 a.m. guy that we can call at 3 a.m. no matter what, and they're going to be there? And as they're answering the phone, we hear them like putting on their shoes, starting their truck, like, what's going on? Where are you at? What do you need? I think a lot of that, again, back to the design of our roles. I think if more of the men step up, then all the rest will follow suit. Just like there's that statistic out there of families with churches that if the mom and the kids go to church, the continuation of that going and even later in life is significantly lower than if the father and the man of the house is taking them to church. So, and that's just by God's design. I'm not saying we're better than women. They do things that we can't do, and we do things that they can't do, and that's one of them. And I think we need to step up in leadership. I think the shifting of masculinity alone would have a huge shift on our culture, because now they'll call what was God's design of masculinity, and you hear them coming out and saying, that's toxic masculinity, toxic masculinity. It's like, well, no, actually, that's just masculinity. It's just our culture has change the definition.
I don't know, man. Saying men and women are different. Pretty sure that's hate speech now. Sam Bondi's coming after you. No, but no, that's good. So what I'm hearing is know what's right and wrong, and we find that in the Bible daily, every day, and then be bold in living it out and telling others of it, and then be men and be accountable. It's good. It's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. And again, I'll drive home again the progressive sanctification. Like it should be a continual journey. We should continue to try to get better. And then you may backslide and fall, as I kind of briefly shared there that I have. And you just got to get back up and get back with it and,
Yeah,
press in. And
you're not going to be perfect on day one, but you got to be willing to say, I was wrong. I'm sorry. And
absolutely.
sometimes I don't know. I don't know what's right there. Maybe I'll know tomorrow now that I know I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
probably a little more confrontational one that I get a lot of pushback from people. And I realize I responded to a post on X today about this because people were talking about, oh, sure, cancel Netflix, but you also need to get rid of Amazon and stop shopping at Kroger and talking about all these big corporations that supply funding to these organizations that we're abhorrently against. And so I will acknowledge not everybody can, and getting away from those can cost you more. It can cost you time, but I think there's a lot of people very capable of voting with their dollar consistently and across the board that just use I don't have the time as an excuse while they're online arguing with people for 4 hours. Well, because I can tell you, and I haven't perfected this either, and I'll still discover things. Like I used to get Kashi cereal. They had a great cereal I liked. And then I discovered after about a year and a half, they were purchased by Kellogg's. And Kellogg's is one of the companies that funds Glisten and all these other things. So I can no longer get my Kashi cereal. I found a similar type granola cereal that the Amish have. So I have that shipped to me now, So I think if more of us did that, and again, I understand not everybody has the finances or time, but I think if more of us more diligently watched where our money was going to and then where that money from those corporations is going to, I think we could also impact culture in that sense.
That's true. That's true. And yet, in our current world where it seems like every single corporation funds something evil,
Yeah.
you can't always afford it and you got to find that balance. So Starting with
Absolutely.
something like Netflix, where they're trying to shove it down our throat, shove it on our children, that's a really good start. But you
Right.
do what you can. That's good. I like
Right.
that.
And they'll even be the ones, I mean, some people be like, well, some of us need to have it to see that and then expose it. I agree 100%. There are reasons to have it. I just choose, I haven't had it since the cuties thing 5 years ago. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I got rid of Netflix immediately then. And I would be unaware of this new stuff going on if someone didn't have it that was in agreement with us and had the same, beliefs and convictions and things. So there are exceptions.
Absolutely. Well, Jeremy, this has been a really good conversation. Where can people
Yeah.
find you?
Uh, Rogue Prodigal on X, or the at is I'm no better than you. It's the letter U. That's pretty much my moniker on all social media, but I'm only active on X, really. I mean, I'm on Truth Social, Facebook, Instagram, but I haven't been on many of those in years. So it's primarily X. And then there's a link to my blog, which I'll be honest, I hadn't written in that blog in like 8 years until about 2 weeks ago. It's I'm no better than you.com. But yeah, that's about it. I'm probably most active on X, and I'm very highly opinionated. I toned it down for this. I have my opinions, and I'm pretty well stick to them. So somebody that listens to this may hop on and find me and want to argue with me about something, and I'll do my best to have a calm, respectful, and productive discussion. And you may change my mind.
Hey, that's all you can ask for.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Appreciate
Yeah,
you.
I appreciate you. You have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too. Thank you.